gold and silver was 100 years ago, and it's just as insecure. If you drop it in a fountain or light it on fire, it's gone. Which is why most people today keep their money in a bank and trade a digital representation of that currency, typically in the form of one of these. Generically, they're known as payment cards, but you probably know them better as debit, credit, or ATM cards. And the easiest way to get one is to open a bank account. Otherwise, you'd have to use cash or something, which, as we discussed earlier, is kind of... Or you can buy a money card from me. Don't waste your time with a Visa prepaid or Walmart store card. A KB Morgan Better Cash money card is just as good as the other guys and is accepted at just about any retailer. For a small $3 loading fee, you can buy stuff at the store or online just like everyone else, while knowing that your money is safe and secure. And if you ever need it out again, my ATM fees are competitive. Right, so if you want one of these without paying an upfront loading fee, you'll need to open a checking account at a bank or credit union. Banks and credit unions are two sides of the same coin. Credit unions offer the same financial services at slightly different rates. The only real difference is who owns the financial institution and why. Banks are owned by a corporation for profit. Credit unions are owned by its members for their benefit. They grew in popularity after the bank panic of 1907. Thousands of banks around the country failed, and communities decided to pool their money together, like small financial co-ops or banking conglomerates. Credit unions typically serve a specific group of people, whether they live in the same area, work in the same industry, or are part of the same demographic group. You have to be someone to join a credit union, whereas banks will serve anyone who walks in the door as long as they have money. They're both exclusive in their own way. For the sake of simplicity, whenever I talk about banking, I'm referring to banks and credit unions, since they offer the same services for slightly different reasons. Starting with the most basic service, a checking account. This is what's known as a transactional account, a specific type of deposit account designed to keep your money available for withdrawal or everyday purchases. The closest thing we have to a digital wallet. You're called a checking account because you used to write actual checks. This is an instruction to the bank to determine who is getting the money, how much they're getting, and what account to pull the money from. But there is no guarantee that the amount you wrote down actually exists in your account. If it doesn't, the check will bounce. And intentionally writing bad checks is illegal. Because of that, many businesses and landlords have shifted towards cashier's checks, where they pull the money from your account and write a guaranteed check in the bank's name. Money orders serve a similar purpose, but are typically sold by retail stores. Since personal checks are falling out of fashion, checking accounts usually come with a debit card, allowing you to shop online or in person and withdraw your money with an ATM. There is no additional fee to use an ATM as long as you're using one of our ATMs. If you're using an ATM at a gas station or something, the fee can vary anywhere from $2 to $5 and is the same whether you're withdrawing 20 or 200. In addition to our fee for not using one of our ATMs. Having quick and easy access to your money means that the bank can't use your deposit as capital for loans. So checking accounts don't usually earn interest. In exchange for having your money in our vault and using our electronic debit system, we charge an account maintenance fee, which can vary from $5 to $15 a month. You can skip all of this at Better Cash. You don't need to pay a bank every month to keep track of what you spend your money on, selling your data to who knows who. Until people start taking Bitcoin seriously, the only untraceable currency is cash. No monthly account service fee, no ATM or overdraft fees. Just bring me your paycheck and I will give you your cash. Minus a small fee, of course. I have kids to keep. I'll cash anything up to $300 for just $3 and $6 for anything above. I know that might sound like a lot, but it's still less than the $5 to $15 you'd be paying at a bank, right? Okay, maybe we can work with you on the fee. Only 42% of checking accounts are actually free. If you have one, it's probably a special account for students or veterans. Or, more likely, they waived the fees because you met some financial requirement. Opening an account starts with an initial deposit, obviously. You can't start an account with nothing. This can be as low as $25, but for a standard non-interest-bearing checking account, our bank requires $100, which is way better than the national average. Once you've opened the account, to avoid paying a monthly service fee, you'll need to maintain a minimum balance of $500. Basically, that $500 just sits there. Its only purpose is to prevent you from having to pay the service fee. Another option is direct deposit. As long as you have a reliable income of at least $1,000 a month, we'll waive the fees. If none of those options work for you, you can consider opening another account. This is known as cross-selling. Since banks exist to turn a profit, it's in our best interest to provide you with as many products as we can. And the most popular option, by far, is a savings account. This is a deposit account that the banks can use as capital for loans, so we don't charge a fee. And as long as you keep it open, there are some strings attached. Since we loan that money out, you are legally restricted to 6 transactions a month, and we provide an incentive for you to keep your money in our bank. As long as it sits there, it will earn interest. Savings accounts also have an initial deposit and minimum balance requirement. So again, let's say you open an account with $500 to start. After a month, the interest will be added to your balance. The national average interest rate on a savings account is 0.06% APY, which stands for annual percentage yield. Divide that by 12, and congratulations, you made 3 cents. You didn't even have to do anything. There are other types of savings accounts, like jumbo or money market, that have much higher interest rates and dividends, but also much higher minimum balance. And then there are time savings accounts, known as certificates of deposit or CDs, which typically earn a higher interest rate for a fixed period of time. You can't withdraw it early without a penalty. 0.06% is the average of all of them, which means for every high-yield online savings account, there's a brick-and-mortar bank that only offers 0.01%, like mine. Savings account? Sure, I'll hold on to your money. Do not trust him with your money. He's not FDIC insured. During the Great Depression, after thousands of banks closed their doors and millions of accounts were vanished, the government decided to prop up the people. If your bank goes under, your savings account will still be there. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation will back any deposit account up to $250,000 with the full faith and credit of the United States government. The NCUA provides the same guarantee for credit unions. The Great Depression was not the first mass bank failure. In fact, they were pretty common back then. There was no regulation. Banks were often over-leveraged. When you make a deposit into your savings account, the bank typically sets aside a fraction of that in reserve and then loans out the rest. This is known as fractional reserve banking. Of your $500 initial deposit, they save 10%, or $50, and loan out $450 to Bob. Bob deposits that $450 into his account at another bank, $45 is set aside, and $405 is loaned out to Catherine. This process repeats infinitely. In fact, your initial $500 deposit was probably the result of someone else's loan. This is how banks create money. It's also why if everyone who has money in a bank decided to withdraw it at the same time, the bank would run out of it. We call this a bank panic or a run on the banks. Most of our money was made this way rather than printing it, which requires a central bank to regulate the money supply. In the United States, we call it the Federal Reserve System, or simply the Fed, which is a system so complicated people assume it must be part of some giant conspiracy. We're not going to get into how it's structured, but we are going to briefly talk about how it works. They control the money supply through 3 mechanisms. The first mechanism we've already discussed. The Fed controls the fractional reserve system. The lower the percentage, the more capital banks have available to loan out, and vice versa. They very rarely change this number. More commonly, the Fed changes the interest rate on interbank loans. The lower the interest rate, the more money can be loaned out, increasing money supply. The third mechanism is the most controversial, the buying and selling of government securities, commonly as treasury bonds. When the government sells bonds, they are taking money out of general circulation. When they buy them back, that money is reintroduced into the economy. That third option was famously used to